All right, happy Monday. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles now. Hope all of you out there had a great weekend. Another loaded show on the docket for today. After Philadelphia signed two linebackers last night, and Myles Jack and Zach Cunningham, is Howie Roseman going to make another move? We'll talk about that. Nakobe Dean injury concerns. An Eagles defensive lineman got hurt last night, and a surprise starting safety is climbing up the depth chart. All of that coming your way. But first, Saturday, preseason game number 1 as the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Baltimore Ravens. And with that, our watch parties are returning. I hope you all join us and make sure you subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Therefore, when we go live for an hour pregame show, you will be notified. Kickoff at M&T Bank Stadium is set for 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. I'd be surprised if Nick Sirianni plays a lot of his starters, but I'm really intrigued to see some of the rookies like Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Sidney Brown, and more. And some of these roster battles are going to be really important going into this game against Baltimore as the Birds hit I-95 for a quick trip to Maryland. Subscribe. Watch parties are back. Can't wait for it. Live audience interaction, play-by-play, super chat giveaways, and that pregame show. We'll recap everything with the postgame show as well. Today's show is presented by Roan. You can get 20% off your order at roan.com/chatsports. You've seen me wear this shirt before on the show. Now I'm wearing one of their polos, and men's closets were due for a radical reinvention. Roan stepped up to the plate. Like Bryce Harper at Citizens Bank Park, they knocked it out of the park. They have products for every occasion. Roan, it helps you get ready for really everything that life throws your way. From going to work, 18 holes of golf, date night, you're hanging out with the homies. Whatever you need, the Roan Commuter Collection has you covered to spice up that wardrobe, and it'll have you looking swag here. The world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. And with the Roan Commuter Collection, you never have to look at your closet and get anxiety about what to wear that day because of all those aforementioned products in their own Commuter Collection. It's time to feel confident without the hassle, and with their wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. Odor-free technology as well. I totally don't even go to the dry cleaner any longer because with the shirt like this, got it out of the washing machine, put it in the dryer for a little bit. It was a little bit wrinkly, right? I hung it up for a few days. Wrinkles gone. And as you wear them, the wrinkles disappear. Roan.com/chatsports. 20% off your order. We'll put that link in the comment section and in the description of this video. So I talked about the two linebacker signings last night, Myles Jack, Zach Cunningham. Very similar to what Philadelphia did midway through the season last year when Howie Roseman decided to sign Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Both Jack and Cunningham, like Joseph and Suh, fulfilling positions of need and positions of concern. They're both going to land a 1-year, $2.5 million contract. Corresponding roster move at linebacker, former third-round pick Davion Taylor, released by Philadelphia for the second time in his career. Josh Andrews, the offensive lineman who's been in the league for a decade, he was also signed by Philadelphia because Brett Toth has really been struggling in snapping the ball at backup center. For Myles Jack, coming out of UCLA, some injury concerns. But for him throughout his career, he's actually been a very durable player. 100 or more tackles, 3 consecutive seasons. He started his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars after being a second-round pick out of UCLA in 2016. Last year with Pittsburgh, did struggle a little bit with the pretty solid defense. He was not good in coverage. As for Zach Cunningham, he led the NFL in tackles with Houston back in 2020. He has run into some injury concerns, especially last year when he only played 6 games. But these are two experienced players who have played at a pretty high level in their NFL careers. We talked about that last night, of course. Just wanted to recap those two acquisitions. And a player who we didn't talk about was Josh Andrews here. 10-year NFL vet. First 4 years, he actually spent them with Philadelphia. He played last year for the Saints. Not a lot of starts under his belt. Only 9 of them has played in 48 games. As for the Nakobe Dean injury here, missed his 3rd consecutive practice on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field, and then the Eagles signed 2 linebackers. So Is that because there are concerns to be had with Nakobe Dean's ankle injury, and can it be a combination of that and the fact that the Eagles aren't really confident in his play? Now, Ian Rappaport did say this, that Dean should be back soon from that ankle injury, so these signings are not for that. Adding Jack and Cunningham gives a young room some experience, and it adds competition. This is where it starts to get pretty interesting, though. Jeff McClain, Philadelphia Inquirer, of course, passing along the news that Philadelphia added Myles Jack and Zach Cunningham, but then he added some context to it. The need for off-ball linebacker depth was obvious through the first week plus of camp, especially after Nakobe Dean's ankle injury. But here's where it starts to get juicy here. Howie Roseman is likely not done addressing this position. Him not being done is interesting because we talked about Howie making a move at linebacker for a couple of weeks leading up to the two moves last night in Jack and Cunningham. And I think what you're seeing here, Howie Roseman is signing those two players to see how two affordable players can perform first. If they end up playing pretty well, you have two guys making a combined $5 million. If they're not good, though, then you decide to cut them. You give them whatever money that they're owed, and then you make a trade for a Patrick Queen type, another more bona fide, solid player, and then you invest a little bit more into those players. So you're just playing this little bit of a waiting game here. Let's see how Nakobe Dean can come back off that ankle injury, and let's see how he can play. Does Christian Ellis have something because he's shown some instinctual skills at that linebacker spot? Is it too early to say that Nicholas Morrow isn't going to be a good addition? Either way, we do need some depth there, so let's bring in two players who have played a lot at the National Football League, and if they don't cut it, then Howie Roseman gets really aggressive, a la a C.J. Gardner-Johnson type of trade that we saw right before the season opener to bring in a more proven player. Still some time to figure this out. I like the contingency plan and the security blanket here for Howie Roseman, and I'm excited to see what Jack and Cunningham can do. I do want to call cap on Rap as in Ian Rappaport. If the Philadelphia Eagles thought that linebacking room was a strength, they wouldn't have brought in not just one linebacker. They wouldn't have brought in two linebackers. And look, I like Nakobe Dean a lot. This is an insurance policy in case he is not good. And I've continued to say this. I think Nakobe Dean can be a player who's a little bit better in a game situation because he relies on feel. He relies on reading what the offense is going to do. He's a very instinctual player. You can't always display that in a practice type of setting. But if he's not good, these are the clear backup plans here. The signings could also be an indictment on Nicholas Morrow. They don't like what they've seen, and he has struggled a little bit in coverage. If anything, all of the linebackers on this team should be feeling the fire a little bit. If I was in the shoes of a Nicholas Morrow or a Christian Ellis, and I'm like, shoot, clearly they aren't convinced that we're the right grouping of linebackers to make this team. If they're going to bring in two guys, one, a former second-round pick in Myles Jack, who's been pretty solid in his career, hasn't necessarily lived up to those expectations coming out of UCLA, and another one who has recently, as 2020, led the NFL in tackles. We need to start playing a little bit better. Otherwise, our roster position might be in question. So if healthy, will Nakobe Dean start week 1 for Philadelphia? S for start, B for backup. Let me know down in the comment section right now. We continue to move forward with today's show. Are the Eagles going to promote Kayvon Wallace to starting safety? He's been getting the majority of first-team reps over the last couple of days, especially on Sunday. And speaking of that open practice at Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday, a lot of other teams across the NFL have bragged about their fan attendance throughout training camp. No team in the NFL can say that they had 50,000 people show up to an open practice at Lincoln Financial Field like Eagles fans did last night. So much Kelly green, midnight green everywhere. And as you can see with the photo here from the bird's eye view, there were fans in the third level of that stadium. I have been at a couple of these open practice settings at the Link. Usually the first bowl, it's always filled up. When you have fans in the nosebleeds. That goes to show you the hype that Eagles fans have for this team going into this year, and it just means more for all of us Philadelphia Eagles fans. It's awesome to see that many people show up for an open practice at Lincoln Financial Field, and the players on the field just must look around and be like, my gosh, you don't get this at the 31 other stadiums across the league. So going back to that open practice, because this was of note, Kayvon Wallace getting some first-team reps. E.J. Smith, Philadelphia Inquirer, actually went to Temple University with him, does some great work for Philly.com. He said the former fourth-round pick got the majority of first-team reps opposite of Reed Blankenship on Sunday, with Terrell Edmunds spending half of his time as a pseudo linebacker and half his time working with the starters in Wallace's place. The Eagles' too-high shell keep safeties out of the action for the most part, so Wallace hasn't managed many highlight plays, but he hasn't been out of position very much during his starting reps either. Perhaps the incoming linebackers cut into Edmunds' snaps in the box and lead to a more even distribution at safety, but for now, Wallace seems to have a slight edge over the rest of the group. Former fourth-round pick out of Clemson, who a lot of people were excited to see what he could do, because at that point, Clemson was a college football power under Dabo Swinney and hasn't really earned and hasn't really popped off to the point where he's been able to get consistent starting reps. I do think that him starting at safety, or at least getting those first-team reps, is kind of a situation where the Eagles are using Edmunds as that off-ball linebacker type of role, because he can play in the box. He can play at that linebacker position. That's what he did a lot of with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Sean Desai just trying to see what personnel packages work for this defense and trying to get a little bit creative. But we'll see. I would also not rule out a move here for Howie Roseman at that safety spot if he wants to address that before the start of the regular season either. But Kayvon Wallace did say, look, I added a lot of healthy muscle, and I feel as though I'm in the best shape that I've been in heading into a year of my professional career. Injury news for Philadelphia. This has to do with the 7th-round pick defensive tackle out of Texas, Moro Ojomo. Left practice early on Sunday after getting shaken up. Trainers were seen working on his face/eye area. A little bit unfortunate for him if he's going to miss some time. He's on the roster bubble. If he doesn't miss some time, it's all good, but he had been stacking some quality days, especially in some of those one-on-one drills. And then yesterday in the team situations, he was actually performing pretty well as well, getting a pass rush in one instance and putting a little bit of pressure on the opposing quarterback, as he is a intriguing player because of his athletic size, speed element to his game. And Moro Ojomo, a guy who I really like for Philadelphia, getting taken in the 7th round. Hopefully that eye/face injury isn't all too serious, because I think he does have a chance, if he's able to play in the preseason, to maybe crack this roster. Another one of those players that I'm looking forward to watching on Saturday night. No practice for the Eagles today on Monday, so no training camp videos coming out from yours truly here on the show. But tomorrow we'll be back in the saddle. If anything big happens at training camp, you know the deal. We're going to cover it and talk about it here on the show. Thanks for watching the show. Give me a real one, real John down below. As always, go Birds. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow here on Eagles Now.